Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 41. Dinner Banquet Part 2. After saying this, Baisio reluctantly turns away after giving one last glance at his closest family. Oh no, I forgot to give uncle his meeting gift. After Bai Xiao's departure, the little boy pats his forehead in an eye-popping manner. Since his arrival here, the little rascal had prepared a gift well ahead of time for Baisio. To think he would forget the whole thing entirely when it's needed. Chiakin, I will be at the land house for the next few days, so if your auntie Hua Flower comes around, have her go look for me there. Bai Yan knits her brow, finding it odd that the one from the flower brothel still hasn't come seen her yet. Ellipsis. At this time, inside the study room of the Bai house, Yu Rong was in the middle of serving her husband Bai Zhengxiang a cup of tea. Husband, you mustn't tire out your body. Please go get some rest. No. Wife, go prepare a gift for me later. I need to go visit someone. Husband, Yu Rong's eye were filled with confusion at the strange request. Some time ago that manor belonging to the Moon Shadow sect has been sold. It's said the new landlord is the head of the flower brothel. Stunned at the news, Yu Rong gives her husband a surprised look. She had heard about the Moon Shadow sect and the flower brothel before. Although these forces may seem inferior on the surface, but in actual fact, they are on equal grounds with the royal family. The infamy of the Moon Shadow sect left no room for doubt. They are undeniably a dangerous organization with those famous assassination exploits. As for the flower brothel, they may be a place for womanizing and enjoyment, but their information-gathering abilities are world-class. As to why Bai Zhengxiang would take notice of the change of ownership, it's because he bought his own mansion here based on the fact that it's close to the one belonging to the Moon Shadow sect. He had intended to use the close proximity to curry favors with that organization, yet not once did those people appear. And now, it's changed ownership to the head of the flower brothel without indication. Husband, what sort of gift do you suggest we give? Yu Rong starts giving the task her full attention, understanding the importance of the matter. You decide, I believe in your judgment. Making a faint smile, his words had only just ended when the door to the study room became knocked open. From the outside, a young girl came rushing in and fell into Bai Zhengxiang's embrace. Gee, what happened? Towards this daughter of his attitude was that of a doting father, so he had no intentions of reprimanding the girl for barging in on him. Father, raising her tearful face, Bai Ji cries, Baisio hooked up with a woman with a child. That little runt set me up today, and in spite knowing this, Baisio still helped that wretched child bully me. You see my face? These injuries are caused by them. Only at the indication did Bai Zhengxiang notice the scratch marks on his precious daughter's face. Flying into a fitting rage, how dare Baisio do that? When he returns, have that boy come see me immediately. A flicker of malicious light filled Bai Ji's eye. Just the thought of what happened today would make her have a strong impulse to shred that little bastard into pieces. And that little bastard, Daddy, you must catch that little twerp so I can pay him back for good. Don't worry, Father will solve this for you. Livid in his face, Bai Zhengxiang starts making a crunching sound with his fist due to how hard he's clenching them. He didn't like Baisio to begin with. If not for the fact that the ungrateful kid was his only son, he wouldn't have indulged the boy for so many years. And now the boy's even turning tail to help an outsider over his sister. If he doesn't mercilessly teach the boy a lesson, then he might really forget his last name starts with Bai. Calm down, my husband, rubbing her husband's chest in a soothing motion. Sio is your son. Now that Bai Yan is back, plus the land house is holding a banquet in a few days, it won't do if Sio turns up injured at the event. Others will misunderstand and think we are maltreating him. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 42. Dinner Banquet Part 3. Loosening his tight-knit brow, Bai Zhengxiang's anger remains difficult to eliminate. Humph, fine, but he must go to the ancestral hall for self-reflection. After the banquet then I will deal with that brat. What Yu Rong said was the truth. If he does harm the boy now, others will take him as a hard father that's mistreating their child. But when the banquet comes to an end, well, there's no need to elaborate. Ellipsis. After Baisio left the place, he didn't immediately go back to his home. Instead, he made a visit to the Lan house to inform their grandmother of what Bai Yan wanted. Only with that done did he finally return to the Bai house. Without incident, as soon as he stepped through the doorway, Bai Xiao was informed by the servants that he's to go to the ancestral hall for reflection. Normally he would resist such an order, but in his current mood, he would rather do this than to face those people tonight. In the coming days, the news of the Lan house holding a welcome home banquet for Bai Yan was spread far and wide, with various powers invited for the feast. Of course, as the former fiancé, Meng Gongyi naturally would also get wind of this event. He thought he would definitely be invited, but even on the night of the banquet, none came. "Your Highness." A mellowing voice that can seep the bone suddenly came from behind. Seeing who the person was, Nang Gongyi gently pulls the woman into his embrace. "My love, do you know Bai Yan has returned?" Clearly sensing his wife's body going stiff at the comment, Nang Gongyi's heart promptly tensed up with pain. "I know you have a lot of grievance while living in the Bai house. But fear not, with me here, none can harm you again." "Your Highness." Lowering her head, Bai Ruo begins to weep. "Bai Yan's character is provocative and vicious, plus she's head over heels for you. There's no way she will forgive me after I stole you away." "What nonsense are you saying? How did you steal me away from her? We love each other, so Bai Yan can't even claim that." Frowning, Nang Gongyi clearly didn't have any good feelings for his former fiancé. "Furthermore, your status is now the crown princess, mother of my child. Aside from my mother the queen, there is no other woman more honorable than you." "No, it's not." Making a bitter smile, she shakes her head hard. "I know Bai Yan's personality the most. She likes to twist the truth. Upon learning her status is inferior to me, she will no doubt malign my maiden family. For example, about her virginity being lost, she will no doubt try to frame me and say it's I who caused it. Then for something like her running away 6 years ago, she will say it's because my mother tried to sell her out of greed. From young till big, she will always pin the blame and responsibility on others." Being fed with all those lies, Nang Gongyi's face gradually turned dark, his eyes burning with anger. "My love." Speaking up to here, Bai Ruo lovingly holds onto the man's hand. "I don't care what the world has to say about me, I only care what you think of me and our son. As long as you believe me, then that's enough." Under that affectionate gaze, Nang Gongyi's gloomy face finally eased up. "How can I not believe you? Not believe the Bai house? Bai Yan is vicious inside, I know that. She can never compare to your kind and gentle self. Besides, who in the world will believe the Bai house would sell their own child? How ridiculous." Smearing, his voice turned sarcastic. "With that dirty body of hers, I doubt anyone would even take her for a few silver." "Husband." This one call instantly melted away the man's heart. Looking down at the woman buried deep in his chest, Nang Gongyi softly spoke. "Ruo, I'm going to take a trip to the Lan house later. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens." Chapter 43, Dinner Banquet Part 4. Raising her head, Bai Ruo's gaze looked a little tense after the statement. "Your Highness wishes to see Bai Yan." "I guess so, she is after all the most beautiful woman in our kingdom. If you wish to take her as your consort, then I have no objection." "My love, you are too kind." Aching inside, Nang Gongyi lovingly gives her a kiss on the forehead. "Don't worry, a woman that has lost their chastity can never come into my eye. I only want to go check on her condition. After so many years out there alone, she must have lost her glory and is now a shadow of her former self. Bai Yan back may be thin, but not the sallow kind with a scrawny body. On the contrary, she was very beautiful with a healthy gloss to her skin. However, over these years she had been caring for a child all alone out there. With such miserable living conditions, even a beauty will wither away normally." Comforted by that statement, Bai Ruo revealed an accepting smile. "Then I will wait for your return." Giving one last peck on her cheek, Nang Gongyi climbs out of their bed under the shy look of his wife. "Someone come prepare a sedan for me. I'm going to make a visit to the Lan house." The reasoning why I didn't get an invite must be because they didn't want Bai Yan to reignite her flame. If so, then all the more reason why I must go visit. I will make Bai Yan understand the price of betraying me. Ellipsis. The Lan Manor. Outside the main gate, countless luxurious carriages are now parked there on the road. Ever since old Lord Lan became sick, it's been a long time since the Lan house became this lively. These guests aren't really here to join in on the feast though, more like here to see a show and make fun of the host. At the moment, in the back of the main hall, 3 individuals were busy looking at the doorway with their curious eyes. Not long after, a stunning red figure stepped into their line of sight, wowing their senses with her beauty. "My dear, you've come." Old Madame Lan softly pats the couch in front, indicating the girl to come sit. Not being sentimental, Bai Yan gracefully enters and sat right next to her grandmother. "Come, let me introduce you," patting her hand. "This older one is your big cousin, male Lan Shaoling, 20-something. And the younger one over there similar to your age is Lan Shaoyan, male. The 2 of them were away, that's why you didn't meet him until today. As for the young one there, she's your cousin Lan Shaoyun. Due to an injury from before, the girl had been staying at the outskirt of the city at her insistence for healing." Making a faint smile, Lan Shaoling protests, "Grandma, you didn't need to give so much detail, you know. Although our cousin here doesn't communicate with our family much, but we are still family. There's no way she wouldn't have heard of us." "Ha ha, you are right, I forgot." Old Madame Lan laughs joyfully, "Oh my dear, I've been foolish." Making a smile, Bai Yan didn't say much because in her mind she did have a decent grasp on the Lan house's situation. The only thing lacking was meeting everyone in person. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 44. Dinner Banquet Part 5. Cousin, Lan Shaoyan, second male cousin, makes a welcoming smile. "Welcome home, from now on you are a member of the Lan family. If anyone dares to bully you, tell brother here and I'll beat." "Then I have to thank you, cousin." Bai Yan was beaming with smile as she said, causing the boy to blush from embarrassment for unknown reasons. "Hey!" Lan Shaoyan girl suddenly ran in front of Bai Yan, her attitude a little arrogant. "You are Bai Ji's stepsister, right? I'm telling you now, if I fight with her in the future you can't side with her. The young girl may not be the easiest to get around, but she's not the spoiled overbearing type." She simply didn't like Bai Ji in her pretentious face. "Why should I help her?" Twitching in the mouth, Bai Yan asks in confusion. Now it's the girl's turn to be stunned. "Aren't you her sister?" If Bai Yan and her brother doesn't tell the truth, likely no one in the world will know how miserable their life had been in the Bai house, hence the reason why Lan Shaoyan said such a thing. Patting her lap like she just remembered something by the remark, old Madame Lan chimes in then, "I almost forgot to tell you all." For the next while, the old grandmother began going over the details of how Bai Yan's been suffering over on that side and how Yurong almost managed to sell the poor girl out. Hearing all these pained stories, the 3 youngsters in the family were left aghast with disbelief. They simply can't imagine there being someone so vicious and cruel. Poor child. Dong Ruolan aunt attempts to wipe the tears from her eyes. "Why did you siblings not come tell us before? Seriously, how can CEO never utter a word about your suffering over all these years?" A bit unhappy yet still full of love, this caring aunt continues, "Your mother is no longer here, so let me, your aunt, decide for you in the future. No matter what happens, you don't have to ever worry about being sold again while here in the Lan house." Feeling a current of warmth circulating in her heart, Bai Yan found that it's far better to have a family by her side than to wander the world alone. Coming back to her senses now, Lan Shaoyan girl, that was arrogant and proud minutes ago, were now showing a tinge of guilt on her face. "I'm so sorry, cousin, I did not know the amount of grievance you have for them. Don't worry, when we see Bai Ji again we can team up to beat her together." Seriously, the Bai house is too much. Anger could be heard in Lan Shaoyan's voice. "Second boy cousin, they took away auntie's dowry and still have the nerve to say cousin here is leeching off of the Bai house. We cannot let this slide." Even the always stable and calm Lan Shaoling, big cousin, was starting to raise his voice. "Mother, grandmother, I agree with my second brother here. Cousin faced so much grievance over there, we can't just let this go. For her and for our Lan family, we must get justice." "Okay, since you all came to this decision, then." The old madam was ready to set it in stone by slamming the table with her hand when Bai Yan interrupted. "Grandma, I've got a plan for revenge already. I can solve this matter alone." Hearing this, the old lady can only exhale a sigh of frustration. Lightly patting her dear granddaughter's hand, she speaks in a whispering tone, "Since you've made this decision, then I can only respect your opinion. However, if you ever need help, then you must come to us. I cannot bear to see you suffer like back then again while under our care. Even if their land house must go against the royal family, they will persist." Mother. Slowly getting up, Dong Ruolan was the realistic one to bring the mood back to normal. "Most of the guests are here, why don't we go out first to receive them?" Nodding at the suggestion, old Madame Lan gently pulls the girl up with her and led the way. "My dear, let us go. Today our land house will show the world how great you are." Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 45. Dinner Banquet Part 6. The inner hall doesn't allow outsiders entry, so the old madam naturally had to take Bai Yan outside for the guests to see. But before then, Lan Xiaoyun girl had get her questions in. "Hey, did you really cure grandpa's body? I heard from father that you became a 4th-level alchemist's disciple." Bai Yan confirms it, her lips curving into a smirk. Glowing in her eye, the young girl hurries to follow up. "Then can you teach me alchemy?" Turning her head around to look at her cousin, Bai Yan unconsciously nodded her head under that anticipating gaze. "I can teach you, but whether or not you can learn anything will depend on your own talent." With that promise in her bag, the girl jumps around excitedly and started getting prideful again like before. "Bai Ji, so what if you got a crown princess sister? I now have Bai Yan as a teacher, meaning a 4th-level alchemist is now my grandshifu. It's a pity that Lan Xiaoyun had no talent in this field and could only flex around some sword and rods. Not that she didn't try before, she did. But after a few failing experiences in the past with alchemy, the girl can only absolve herself to the truth. However, now that Bai Yan's appeared, she can become a titular student. It matters not if she doesn't have talent in that field, she only wanted the title to stand on even grounds with Bai Ji. That's the real purpose. Ellipsis. Lan House. Inside the banquet hall. His Highness the Crown Prince is entering. One of the servants announces this all the way from the outside, knocking the noisy guests back into silence. Crown Prince? He's here, too. It can't be the man is here to make fun of Bai Yan, is he? After all, the girl did almost become the crown princess of the Lu Huo kingdom. Who sent the invitation to him? Lan Yu uncle slightly wrinkles his brow as he whispered to the man next to him. Nervous and careful in his voice, the guard replies, "Subordinate here reminded everyone ahead of time not to send an invite over there. I believe none from our side is responsible. If we didn't send an invite, then why is he here?" Lan Yu's face didn't look so good. He didn't forget how much harm the royal family did to Bai Yan, his niece. They all say the current crown princess had a premature birth, but if that's true, how can the child be so healthy? Only those ignorant fools would believe such a lie. Lord Lan, you won't blame me for coming uninvited now, would you? Nangong Yi unfolds his fan like a scholarly gentleman to accentuate his appearance. I heard your father, old Lord Lan, is already sick beyond relief. Therefore, I came specifically to see how many days he still has left and to give my farewell before it's too late. Clenching his fist into a ball, Lan Yu forces a cold smile. My father is doing very well, no need for your concern. Anyways, I fear your purpose today is too impure. Forgive me, but I believe our home is unfit to receive you. At the moment, the recovery of the old man remains limited to the Lan house, so it's no surprise the prince would be unaware of this fact. Nevertheless, the obvious expelling words from the host left Nangong Yi very displeased. Just as he's ready to refuse, another announcement interrupted him from the doorway. His Highness the Sovereign Prince is entering. Sovereign Prince. Now this time, whether it be Lan Yu or Nangong Yi, both men were completely caught off guard here. Stunned for words, they turned around immediately to seek that dangerous figure. This sovereign prince was arrogant and aloof. No matter the banquet or royal gatherings, this man would never show himself regardless of the invites. Therefore, Lan Yu deliberately left the infamous man alone for today's banquet. To show up uninvited, what does this mean? Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 46. Stunning Part 1. All eyes are on the door now inside the banquet hall. Why is the sovereign prince also here? This is just a banquet for an unclean person. Bai Ji, who was standing beside her father Bai Zhengxiang, turned white after getting hit with this bombshell news. Though the young girl's whispering voice remained very low, but due to eerie silence in the atmosphere, it became quite abrupt among the guests. Turning gloomy in the face, Lan Yu sent a cold glare at the girl before turning his line of sight back to the doorway. At this moment, whether it be the guests or the prince, everyone that's in attendance were in amazement by what they saw. Hanging high above the dark night, a moon brighter than everything else in the sky highlighted that eye-catching object. Bang tilde. In one loud boom, several silvery wolves pulling a magnificent throne swiftly lands in the middle of the hall, sending the awe-struck guests running for cover by the abrupt sound. Carefree with his arms lazily leaning against the handles, that slightly exposed chest was absolutely sinful in how seductive they were. Then there's also that handsome and captivating face, intoxicating. This should have been a bloodthirsty man that warrants fear in life, yet it's also this type that makes the female sex heads over heels for him. Like moths diving into a flame, though deadly yet willing. Your Highness. Lan Yu didn't give the same cold shoulder as he did to the crown prince, rather his tone was respectful and welcoming to the man. It's a great pleasure that our land house can have the honor of hosting you tonight. Seeing this extreme difference in treatment, Nangongyi's expression became distorted due to anger. He's the real royalty here, not that man with a mere title. Standing up from his throne, Daikang slowly dismounted and left his ride to its own bidding. Like a set of well-trained dogs, these wolves rapidly departed the hall by taking to the air instead of over the wall like their entry. Gasping, the crowd couldn't move their sight from the sky for a good while. Those are demon beasts. They all knew Daikang was very powerful, but never in their minds did they expect something so impacting. I heard the land house is hosting a reception banquet for someone from the Bai house. Cold in his gaze, he sweeps his eyes across the crowd. So, I'm curious, why is this feast hosted by the land house instead of the Bai house? Your Highness. This time it was Bai Zhengxiang who spoke up first without waiting for Lan Yu to explain. This you don't know. My Bai house treated that ungrateful girl with all our heart, giving everything that's good to her. Even my current wife looks to the girl as her own flesh and blood. Yet, that ungrateful girl announced she will denounce our father-daughter relationship after I said a few scolding words, claiming she will return to the land house. Hearing the story from the man himself, the crowd clearly became a little riled up by the half-baked details. This Bai Yan is really a heartless girl. It's bad enough she eloped with another man back then, causing her grandmother to faint in the street. Now she's even denouncing her own father. If I had such a daughter I too would want to strangle her to death. Madame Bai is truly kind. I heard she doted on this daughter more than her own true blood. But instead of getting gratitude in return, this heartless girl would slander her own stepmother's name. What a vicious girl. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 47. This is the type that I like. Part 1. Hearing the groundless accusations directed at his niece, Lan Yu uncle in the end couldn't suppress his anger and exploded, "All of you shut up." Almost instantly, the crowd went mute again because they were all overwhelmed by the sudden roar. You say my niece eloped with someone, where's the evidence? He sneered, disgusted by those foul lips. Aside from Bai Zhengxiang's slandering claim, there's nothing. Nothing you all hear. If anything, I say it's a whole setup designed to let Bai Ruo marry the prince here. Lan Yu. Bai Zhengxiang roars out in utter rage. What do you mean by that? I'm kind enough to attend your banquet and this is how you treat us, frame my daughter. Ruo is noble and virtuous, how can she use such means to seduce his highness here? I say, only Bai Yan can do such a thing that you say. Daughter. A pang of irony could be seen in Lan Yu's face because he now understands, to this man, only Bai Ruo and her sister Bai Ji can be considered his daughter while the other one can't. Lord Lan, you were too much by doing this. Nangongyi wrinkled his brow as his complexion turned dark. My wife warned me of this, but I didn't expect it to be so true. She said Bai Yan will definitely pin the blame of her misdeeds on others and now it seems there's no lie at all. Only you would believe that woman's nonsense. Clenching his fist, Lan Yu wanted to rebuke back when he suddenly heard a slight cough from the outside. Looking over at the source, the crowd could see old Lord Lan slowly walking in with a group of people by his side. Father. Suppressing his anger, Lan Yu quickly went over to pay his respect. Ahumph. I welcome you all for attending my granddaughter's welcome home banquet. Deliberately clearing his throat with that cough, his fierce eyes scanned the surrounding as a form of suppression. However, it halted in doubt when it came to Daikang's turn. It's like he's trying to convey, why are you here? To everyone. Understanding his father's confusion, Lan Yu hurries to shake his head at his father, telling the old man he too doesn't know why. Lord Lan, your body. A flicker of astonishment could be seen in Nangongyi's iris as an unknown thought ran through his mind. On the other side, Bai Zhengxiang could no longer suppress his emotions anymore. A monstrous amount of rage came rushing out as he pinned daggers at the old grandpa. Why is this old man still not dead? No, it should. Why is he even able to climb out of bed? Under the surprised eye of the audience, old Lord Lan slowly came in front of Daikang, his old face revealing a welcoming smile. For Lord Kang yourself to make a visit to our humble abode, it's truly an honor. Looking down in a condescending manner at the old man, Daikang's voice remains aloof and cold. I'm only curious about who this Bai Yan is and how she can be so infamous in the kingdom. Recalling the information gathered by his guards, those seductive eyes began to narrow dangerously. Losing her virginity 6 years ago, getting pregnant. Good. Very good. I like to see how long this woman can keep up with that stubborn act. Curving his lip into a bloodthirsty smile, that oppressive aura blowing out from nothing made the whole room difficult to breathe. Feeling a bad premonition from this, old Lord Lan begins to worry that his granddaughter might have offended this bloodthirsty man by accident somewhere. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 48. This is the type that I like. Part 2. Your Highness. Seeing the undisguised anger in Daikang's eye, Bai Ji promptly stood up from her chair. Although Bai Yan never married, she eloped with a wild man 6 years ago. Such a deed not only disgraced my family, it also disgraced herself and everyone around her. As foul and dirty as her explanations were, the shameless girl still manages to put on a shy look like a maiden meeting a lover. Simply said, Bai Ji just didn't want to lumped into the same group as Bai Yan because it will only be a blemish in her maneuver to marry the man. Funny part was that Daikang never even had her in his eye, much less know who Bai Ji was. Wild man. Daikang snickers a cold laugh. Unaware of the face that's slowly turning cold and dark, Bai Ji continues on with her rant. 6 years ago on Ancient Road, Bai Yan was having an affair with a wild man. Through coincidence, my sister Bai Ruo caught the pair in bed during their act, hence the reason why she eloped. Oh. Pricking his brow, Daikang's voice carried a tone of cruelty. Then does that mean you've seen that wild man? When it came to the last 2 words, he deliberately emphasized his tone with a bloodthirsty light glimmering off of his red eye. Forget about Bai Ji, not even Bai Ruo had seen the person back then. But in order to pitch the story to the public, they naturally didn't tell the truth. Of course I've seen the person. The wild man is nowhere close to being as handsome as His Highness the Crown Prince here. I really wonder why Bai Yan can be so blinded to like a disgusting and gross man like that. At this moment, Bai Ji only had her whole mind on slandering her stepsister, making her totally oblivious to the changing aura around the man of her dream. It's getting more and more dangerous that even the crowd had to take a step back. Just then, a mocking voice broke the rant from outside the hall, making Bai Ji jump with fright. I say, I was wondering why the banquet hall is so suffocating and dirty, so it's you who came. Father, why did you let this cheap thing in here? She's making the entire mansion stinky with her foul odor. Lan Xiaoyun girl cousin had just walked in when she noticed Bai Ji yapping on and on. Meeting her enemy once again after so long, it's a definite she won't just sit idly by without doing anything. The flames boiled inside the girl, ready to burst forth like a wave. Regardless of the grudge between these girls, the crowd was more preoccupied with the woman standing next to Lan Xiaoyun. Nangongyi could barely keep his eyes from popping out right now. Though Bai Yan back then was beautiful and had the title of the kingdom's #1 beauty, it's nothing compared to her now. As ignorant as Bai Ji was, even she's not that stupid to miss the gathering gaze aimed at the doorway. Seeing how all eyes were on Bai Yan, her fist clenched so hard that a crunching sound could be heard. Especially when she took notice to Daikang's gaze, it's also aimed at the hateful woman. This fact alone made her want to go crazy. Your Highness. Gnashing her teeth in pure anger, she is my eldest sister who lost her chastity 6 years ago. This was a deliberate act by the shameless girl. Bai Ji wanted to remind Dai Kang of the fact that Bai Yan wasn't a clean girl, so he mustn't be fooled. Highness. Slightly curling her brow, Bai Yan turned her sight to one side. That's when she saw him, the very same seductive yet dangerous face. Jumping in fright, she nearly blurted out her next sentence. What are you doing here? Why am I here? You should know better than anyone. A devious grin filled Dai Kang's face. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 49. This is the type that I like. Part 3. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even Bai Yan herself was stunned. It can't be, this man is the infamous sovereign prince of the kingdom. In a blink of an eye, Dai Kang had already begun closing the distance between him and her. Seeing the encroaching figure coming their way, Lan Shailing's big cousin and his brother subconsciously wanted to pull their cousin behind them for protection. Sadly, their actions were too late. Tightly gripping his hands around her waist, Bai Yan's last chance for escape was sealed off for good. You really made it difficult for me to find you. His tone threatening yet alluring all at the same time. What the man was referring to was how he was forcefully raped by her back then, but to the rest of the audience here tonight, those words had a completely different meaning. Scram! Bai Yan became angry now. In one stomp, she aims it straight for the man's feet like last time. Just as it's about to make contact, a powerful hand caught it, forcing her into the most embarrassing posture like a pair of intimate dancers. To make things worse, those naughty fingers continued to stroke her thigh, giving her goosebumps left and right. Your little feet here is so restless. From those bloodthirsty eyes, a cruel smile appears. I say, should I chop it off? His threatening tone was very gentle, thus giving off the misconception that he's trying to flirt with Bai Yan. Blankly watching Dai Kang's devilish smile, a trickle of tear began flowing out of Bai Ji's eye in silence. Ji. Seeing her precious daughter silently weeping there alone, Bai Zhengxiang can feel his very heart tearing itself. Returning his anger back at the source, he speaks in an interrogating tone. Bai Yan, what are you doing in public? Do you have no shame? Turning dark, she sweeps her sight around at the man and girl. Seeing the jealousy in Bai Ji's eye, a flicker of triumphant grin fills Bai Yan's peerless face. Isn't it clear enough on what we are doing? Pricking her brow, she provocatively slides her finger under the man's chin. Little Kang Kang, do you agree with what I say? Little Kang Kang. This name clearly made Dai Kang's lip twitch. Nevertheless, the abrupt change in attitude only stirred his appetite and raised his interest. Grabbing the teasing finger, Dai Kang turns to face the distorted man in the background. It can't be Lord Bai is blind. Can't you see when it's that obvious? Father, look at her. Bai Ji's face was ghastly white now as tears flowed out of jealous eye. She's doing it on purpose. Indeed, Bai Yan was doing this on purpose. In order to frustrate the shameless girl, she's even willing to sacrifice her own skin to reach her goal. Your Highness. Suppressing his inner wrath, Bai Zhengxiang lowers himself before the man known as the Sovereign Prince. I'm sure you also heard of my eldest daughter's character. She got herself pregnant before marriage and even eloped 6 years ago. Such a person isn't worthy to be by your side, so you mustn't be fooled. This statement thoroughly enraged the members of the Lan house. It's already bad enough he let Bai Ruo replace Bai Yan in marrying the crown prince of the kingdom, plus he even expelled her from his family, now he's also slandering the girl. Is this the kind of stuff a father's supposed to do? Just as old Lord Lan wanted to go duke it out with the bastard, Dai Kang's aloof voice chimed in, so what? This is the type that I like. The crowd all gasped in unison, utterly shocked by the sensational statement. This is the type that he likes. In other words, Lord Kang has a fetish of liking young unmarried women that's given birth before. Oh heavens! No wonder all those excellent girls cannot fall into his eye, it's because of this strange fetish. Adorable treasured fox, divine doctor mother overturning the heavens. Chapter 50. Be good, don't move. Part 1. Widening her eyes in disbelief, Bai Ji couldn't believe what she just heard. Lord Kang likes Bai Yan's type. Can't be that I will need to find another man to get myself knocked up before he will look at me. Bai Yan. Old Lord Lan was the first to come out of the massive shock. Furrowing his old brow, your relationship with His Highness is. It's said that this Dai Kang wasn't lustful, only cruel and bloodthirsty. If his own granddaughter gets involved with a man like this, he's honestly not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Looking down at the misbehaving woman tightly wrapped around by his arms, Dai Kang makes a ambiguous smirk. It's exactly that type of relationship. Thumping so hard that he can't even control his heart, old Lord Lan nearly fainted away by the overwhelming shock. Exactly that type of relationship. It can't be the one from back is Lord Kang himself. No, looking at their expressions, doesn't seem like it. Bai Yan, you come over here. Bai Zhengxiang finally snapped. Pricking her brow, based on what are you ordering me on? You. Steaming at the question, the man openly points at Bai Yan in an accusing manner, you are my daughter. Hearing this, Bai Yan made the most ironic laugh one can make, daughter. When did you ever admit I'm your daughter? And now in this situation you call me your daughter. In one swipe of her hand, she pushes Dai Kang aside and firmly walks toward Bai Zhengxiang. Though his brow was slightly wrinkled at the insolent act of the woman, Dai Kang remains unmoved with a demonic light flickering in his iris. You Bai Zhengxiang keep calling me an ungrateful wretch, but are you not also a heartless bastard? Halting in her step, a cold gleam shot out of her eyes. Years ago, if not for my mother's foolishness in contributing the Dan pills to you, whatever achievement you have today never would have come to pass. Insolent wretch. In one slap, the man aims it straight for the girl's face. Cold and indifferent, Bai Yan firmly catches the attack by pinching the wrist. You want to hit me? Smearing, she asked, based on what can you hit me? And then, abruptly raising one of her legs, Bai Yan directly sends the man flying across the air with one swing of her kick. Silence filled the hall. Compared to the fact that Bai Yan would raise her hand against her own biological father, more were fascinated by the fact that she, a well-known useless person, could harm the man in question. This is too illogical. Old Lord Lan and everyone on their side were all livid with anger by Bai Zhengxiang's attempt to slap the girl, but before they can make a move to stop it, Bai Yan had already made her move. When did she get such power? Damn you Bai Zhengxiang. Old Madame Lan was the first to cry out. Pointing her old fingers in a raving fashion, she calls out, how dare you make a move against my precious granddaughter? Old bone, what are you still spacing out there for? Hurry and beat this animal to death. This time old Madame Lan wasn't kidding around, she truly meant the last part. If the man here would openly attack Bai Yan even in their presence, she can't even imagine what it must be like for the siblings while no one's looking. If not Lan Sheroyan, second boy cousin repeatedly soothing the old granny's back on the side, old Madame Lan might not even be able to stand right now. Grandfather, grandmother, let me first finish my words. Making a smile, she raises a hand to stop everyone. Back then I didn't want to make trouble for anyone, so I didn't say anything. The world thinks you wrong, treats me like her own daughter, but have any of you seen me wear a single piece of jewelry? Stunned by the statement, the audience all looked at each other. According to their memories, the impression they got of the girl was always unmasked and unblemished. It's true they never saw Bai Yan wear a single jewelry.